Defying a ban on protests, violence erupts in Hong Kong as tens of thousands of anti-government protesters take to the streets for the 13th consecutive week. Anger over a decision to suspend Parliament before a deadline to leave the EU. Thousands turn out across the UK for what have been dubbed Stop the Coup protests. Also coming up for you, hours after a Russian-backed ceasefire took effect in Syria's Idlib province, one civilian is killed. France 24 looks at the human cost of a month-long offensive there. Hello, welcome. You tuned in to France 24. I'm Rochelle Ferguson-Biahi with the headlines for you this hour. We begin in Hong Kong, where there were scenes of violence on Saturday as anti-government protesters defied a ban and took to the streets for the 13th consecutive week. Well, demonstrators threw petrol bombs and lit fires in the street, while riot police in turn fired back with rubber bullets, water cannons and tear gas. Well, Saturday then, marking the 5th anniversary of China's decision to rule out fully democratic elections in Hong Kong. France 24's Yenna Lee has this report.
Anger on the streets of Hong Kong. Protesters set fire to barricades and umbrellas, blocking roads and clashing with police in the 13th consecutive weekend of demonstrations. Earlier Saturday, law enforcement sprayed blue dye outside the government's headquarters, an attempt at breaking up an unauthorized gathering and possibly identifying those who attended it. Saturday marks the 5th anniversary of China's decision against fully democratic elections in Hong Kong, a move that sparked the 2014 umbrella movement. Authorities refused to greenlight this weekend's protests. Despite this, defiant protesters found creative ways to circumvent the ban, such as organizing mass shopping trips and religious gatherings, including a Christian march that started off in Wan Chai district earlier Saturday. The event, promoted as a prayer for sinners, attracted Hong Kongers of all generations.
I think that people know that they risk being arrested, including me. I might be arrested too. But I won't be afraid. I will do what I think is right.
It's the 13th straight weekend of rallies. What started as protests against a now shelved extradition bill ballooned into a pro-democracy movement. Hong Kong's leaderless protests show no sign of relenting. Beijing, though, hopes the movement will die down before October 1st, the 70th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic.
In other news, stop the coup. The message from protesters across the UK this Saturday as thousands voice anger at the Prime Minister's decision to suspend Parliament before a deadline to leave the EU. Well, Boris Johnson has vowed to forge ahead with Brexit on October 31st, with or without a deal on future relations with the bloc. The move to shut Parliament is expected to hinder his opponent's efforts to stop him. France 24's Chris Moore reports from London.
People taking to a number of locations in central London, including Trafalgar Square behind me, as they express their anger and frustration, not just over Brexit, but over Boris Johnson's move to suspend Parliament. They say that's a coup and an assault on democracy. They also say it makes the last thing they want, something which they point out that neither Parliament nor the British people have assented to, namely a no-deal Brexit, all the more likely. Now, there is now a glimmer of hope, despite the clock ticking much faster for these protesters in terms of their aims. Next week, likely to see both legal and parliamentary challenges to suspension and to the prospect of Britain crashing out on the 31st of October without a deal. It's going to come down to the wire. It's going to be about which way rebel Conservative MPs vote. And next week is set to be a frenetic one in the Houses of Parliament.
Tunisia's Electoral Commission has published a final list of 26 presidential candidates given the green light to run in polls later this month. The election was brought forward from November to September the 15th, following the death of leader Beji Caid Essebsi. Among candidates running are Prime Minister Youssef Chahed, Interim Parliamentary Speaker Abdel Fattah Marou, and the former Defence Minister Abdel Karim Zebedi. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights says regime airstrikes have killed at least one civilian in the northwest province of Idlib. This just hours after a Russian-backed ceasefire took effect. Since early August, Bashar al-Assad's forces have been leading a ground offensive in Idlib in an attempt to root out militants there. Well, that offensive has come at a high human cost, as France 24's Hussein Assad and Shona Bhattacharya now report.
This young man is recovering from surgery. He was injured in an airstrike and made his way to the Atma Charity Hospital near the Turkish border. Since the Syrian and Russian offensive intensified in April, hundreds have been killed and wounded. The number of patients here has almost doubled.
We had 15 to 16,000 patients a month, but now we have up to 25,000 because of the displacements. 30 to 40 hospitals and private clinics, especially in the south part of Idlib, were hit by airstrikes. Most of them are out of service.
Many victims are from places like Sarakeb, east of Idlib, near the front line. It's now a ghost town. The day before we arrived, this house was hit by an airstrike. No one was killed, but Abu Ziyad's home is now a pile of rubble.
For 40 years, I worked as a teacher to make money to build this house. Now, my children and I are displaced. They didn't destroy the opposition or rebels. They destroyed a house.
Whether a ceasefire is announced or not, many residents of towns like Sarakeb no longer have anywhere to return to.
Well, still in the region, the leader of Lebanon's Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, has refuted Israeli claims that his group has factories to produce precision-guided missiles in Lebanon. In a speech delivered to hundreds of his followers, Nasrallah admitted having the missiles, but not the factories to produce them. It comes just a week after Israel crash-landed 2 drones in southern Beirut, something Hezbollah calls an attack mission. Well, Israel's army said on Saturday that it's ramped up its forces on the border with Lebanon. Here's Hassan Nasrallah speaking earlier this Saturday.
We do not have any factories producing precision-guided missiles. That is a lie. It's a pretext being used by Netanyahu to carry out attacks against us. As I have said on many occasions, we do have enough guided missiles to meet our needs, but we have no factories producing them.
And finally, a tweet posted by the US President Donald Trump has attracted the attention of both security and intelligence analysts alike. On Friday, Trump released a high-resolution photograph of an apparently failed Iranian rocket launch, saying the United States had nothing to do with it. Tehran has yet to make an official comment. France 24's Yenna Lee has this report.
This kind of image is normally classified, a high-quality photo of Iran's space center. Analysts suggest it was taken by an American spy satellite. As per his unconventional communication style, President Donald Trump tweeted the picture with the following caption.
The United States of America was not involved in the catastrophic accident during final launch preparations for the Safir SLV launch at Semnan Launch Site 1 in Iran. I wish Iran best wishes and good luck in determining what happened at Site 1.
Thursday, there was an unexplained explosion at Imam Khomeini Space Center. It was believed to be a failed launch of the country's satellite Nahid 1. But Iran's communications minister insists their latest technology wasn't affected, showing it off to reporters.
The question of whether anything happened here or not is actually something the defense minister should explain. However, satellite Nahid is right here.
Since 2009, Iran has placed several satellites into orbit. The US and Israel fear Tehran's space program is a cover for missile development. Iran, meanwhile, insists their satellites are for civilian use.
We're very much up to date. More international headlines in 20 minutes' time for you here on France 24. Join us then.